Yeah, so hi everyone. Welcome to this event that we have been informally calling a DAMS showcase, but which is formally titled Damned If You Do, Damned If You Don't. Thank you to Beth Lander for that title. This meeting is being recorded. I believe Beth wanted to put it on PACSCL's YouTube channel afterwards. So calibrate actions and words accordingly. But I think we probably won't record the Q&A. So just presentations. We do have a full slate of speakers. I think we're going to save Q&A for the end. Just like as you've all been to presentations with a lot of speakers before, there's always a danger we run out of time. So we'll just do a general Q&A session at the end, but feel free to use the chat during the presentations. My name is Sarah Newhouse. I'm the chair of PACSCL's Technology Sustainability Committee and the Digital Preservation Archivist at the Science History Institute. And so today, a bunch of speakers from the PACSCL community who are going to talk about the dams that they're using at their institutions. And first up, we actually have Chrissy Perella, who's speaking on behalf of the Tech Sustainability Committee and is going to talk about the DAMS survey that we did, which actually led to this event. So, Chrissy, floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I am Chrissy Perella, and I am a project archivist at Drexel College of Medicine Legacy Center. PACSCL sent out a DAMS survey last spring. It seems like ages ago now. And the Tech Sustainability Committee worked on going through all the responses, especially the open forum, the open field ones. And we sent out the report, I believe, in June, but just to give a quick overview too. And if there are any questions, you can always reach out to any member of the Tech Sustainability Committee via email. So our DAMS survey, as I said, was sent out in the spring of 2024. We did not define what a DAMS was. We kind of used it as a blanket term for any system that manages your digital assets or collections. So it was really up to PACSCL members on how they interpreted that. And we got a really good response. We got 30-some responses. We had about 70% of those people who are using some sort of DAMS and about 30% who are not. The most useful thing about their survey, rather than going through all through this, I mean, you can go and read it because we did send it out. One of the most useful things was some of the summary of findings, like things that people really looked for in their DAMS, like how easy it was to use, how easy it was for users to use, how good was the search, could you facet, could you look for subjects, could you look for names, could you look for dates, how well could you manage metadata if you could use Dublin Core or multiple metadata schemas? That was really important too. Obviously, performance and speed. You don't want it super slow. You don't want it to not be accessible. And a lot of people also mentioned long-term digital preservation capabilities as well. And then for folks who did not have a digital collection system in place, obviously cost and time were two big factors. And one of the most interesting things, although perhaps not surprising, was one of the outcomes was that a lot of people said that they wished there was one magical system that could do it all. We don't currently have any answers for that, but it is a really nice granular look at how other PACSCL members are using digital collection systems, what systems they're using, and the things that they have found important when working with them. So again, please feel free to reach out to any member if you have any questions about the report. And if you go into the Google group, you can grab that report to read it as well. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm just grabbing a cleaner link to the chat. I tried to copy and paste from my Outlook and did not work. So there's a link to the report on the DAMS survey if you do want to go look at it. Okay, so first up, Matt and Matthew from Drexel, who are going to talk about omeka.net, not .org. What's the difference?
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to start off. I'm Matthew Lyons. I'm the University Archivist at Drexel, and I'm going to give kind of a sort of an overview piece, and then Matt Sherman, my colleague, is going to get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. So Omeka.net is it's a part of a family of different applications. There are three different versions of Omeka. Omeka.net is primarily an exhibits platform. I think it's fair to say, and that's how we use it. It does have the capacity to function as a DAMS, and I think Matt's going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of that. It's a pretty simple platform. It's based on the Dublin core metadata schema, although there is the capability to add in some other metadata elements. It's something that was created initially by or for digital history professionals at George Mason University. So it kind of feels like something that it has some information professional perspectives sort of built into it, rather than something that you have to impose on it. But it is a fairly limited system in a lot of ways. So as I said, there's three different versions of Omeka. The Omeka Classic is the basic application, which is something that you download it, you host it yourself, and it's open source. You can do whatever you want with it in principle. Omeka S is a version that's designed for institutional use, so it's supposed to support kind of a more complex set of offerings. And then Omeka.net is the hosted version. So we don't host it. We contract with the Corporation for Digital Scholarship. We pay them a monthly or an annual fee, and just access it online. Omeka.net has four different tiers of subscriptions, ranging from $35 to $1,000 a year, and the different prices get you different capabilities in terms of the amount of storage, ranging from 2 to 50 gigabytes, as well as different numbers of templates and numbers of plugins that you have access to. And the plugins cover a lot of different things. I mean, there's a Google Analytics plugin, there's a plugin for a timeline, there are plugins for bringing in other metadata schemas, as I said. We're currently we're currently using Omeka for 3 different exhibits. The largest of which is about the Drexel family, and then we have a couple of smaller ones. And yeah, as I said, it's fairly basic in terms of what we can do. And I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Matt to get into a little bit more of the specifics, and then I'll comment at the end to give you sort of some pros and cons from our perspective. Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt Sherman. I'm the digital curation librarian here at Drexel. I work with Matthew. So I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see Omeka both in the front and back end. So hopefully this is coming through. And so when you log into Omeka.net, it'll show you sort of what sites you have access to. So you could potentially have more than one sort of Omeka site for different sets of exhibits or collections. Since we have the free tier, you can see you get about 500 megs of space. Not a huge amount, but depending on what you have, that could be useful. I know of different institutions that have sort of hacked Omeka to be a bit of their digital collection system for them. So we'll hop open to a tab just to show you the front end. So when you land, this is generally a standard landing page for Omeka. As Matthew noted, we have sort of our 3 notable exhibits. It also, anything you upload to Omeka will also fall into collections, so you can use them to be able to look at items via collection as well. And you can even get down so that you can look at specific pieces of material that have been uploaded. It provides some amount of metadata. Exhibits are really where it's most notable for, because you can provide a lot more historical context. You can also tier information. So it's a very simple website. But you can have multiple sort of tiers within the navigation, and have some amount of visuals provided. Now, on the back end, if you go in and manage the site, you have a number of options, which you can see along the side here. I'll mostly just point to a few things. So this is sort of the standard dashboard. And you can look through all of the items within your site, and even go in, look at particular details. You can edit to add additional metadata. As Matthew noted, this is defaulting to Dublin Core, and add files and whatnot. And all of these items can be grouped into collections. So again, this is a way that you can have sort of a digital collections system. And it can even have sort of collections and sub-collections. So if we look down here in the collection tree, this is actually a sub-collection of the Drexel family digital project collection. And you're even able to go in and reorder items on how they get displayed. So you have a little bit more granular control than some of the more automated systems, that even more vendor supported systems like our OMA digital instance we use does. And then also we have the exhibits, and those you can click to look at more directly, but you can also edit a fair number of things. Exhibits tend to be broken down into sort of the general information, and then there's an assortment of pages that you can also adjust sort of their hierarchy on and how they'll show up in the page navigation. But if we click on one of these, the content has both basic information, but everything is sort of laid out in different blocks. And that's where you can put in an assortment of different materials, including some of the layouts and plugins that Matthew mentioned. And notably, he mentioned the timeline. That's something that seems to be included in the free tier because we have a working timeline, as well as if you include geographical information in the images, you can also get some amount of geomapping. And there's other things in here you can put in about relationships and tags and control vocabularies, but this at least gives a rough sense of what Omeka looks like and what you might be able to play around with a free, even just the free tier, if Omeka might be helpful to you. So I'll hand it back to Matthew for our experience with it.
So just to summarize real quick, I would say that on the plus side, Omeka.net it's pretty easy to use for very sort of simple, basic exhibit purposes. Because it's hosted, the updates are taken care of. It's not something we have to worry about at all. And it's relatively low cost for certainly for small scale use. On the minus side, I mean, I think one of the things is that, the design it's fairly rigid, and it's, you kind of have these set templates, and at least in the hosted version, there's not a lot of room for tweaking them. There are also some functionality issues. There's some limitations in terms of navigation within exhibits. There's some problems with the PDF viewer. And I'm told that it doesn't really look good on mobile. I haven't really explored that myself. But I think another thing that one of our former staffers really highlighted is that it doesn't really support migration, so that if you want to think about exporting an exhibit to another platform, you basically have to do it manually, piece by piece, or even just if you want to copy it onto another, another instance within the same platform. It's very, very clunky for something like that. So again, limited, but within what it offers, it has some value if your functionality needs are limited. And I will stop there.
Okay, great. Thank you. I put a link to Drexel's public-facing exhibits in the chat if anyone wants to see what nomeca.net exhibit looks like from the front-end user experience. Next is Erin Gavin from Science History Institute, my colleague, who's going to talk about past perfect.
Alrighty. What? Oh, I figured it out. I got it. Anyway, like Sarah said, I am her colleague at Science History Institute. I'm the assistant collections manager. So I work mainly with the museum objects and collections. So and we use past perfect to manage that. I apologize if I'm all over the place. We're in the middle of installing an exhibition, so just please excuse me. So this is past perfect. I think everyone can see it, hopefully. Okay. As you can see, it has a lot of different modules. I actually don't really use a lot of them. Like for instance, we don't use any of the development modules. So if that's something you're more interested in, I would recommend researching it. We mainly use the collections modules, and even then we only use the objects and archives. And we don't actually use the archives for our archives, it's for our ephemera collection. So kind of using it in an odd way, but this is what an object record looks like. It's pretty typical, there's description, different like the subject fields, all that fun stuff. One of the benefits to this is this custom field. Like you can change the names of these fields, and then I'll show you the online version later, but you can then indicate like which of these fields you want to show. For instance, I just added this digital collections field because a lot of our stuff is in our digital collections, which Eddie will talk about later. So yes, this is the back end. It's kind of sort of self-explanatory. In terms of like its in terms of its like exhibitions functionality and stuff, we use it to track for the back end, but it doesn't really translate to the front end because we rely on digital collections for that. So it's kind of, instead of Past Perfect Online being our only online presence for the museum collection, it kind of works in tandem with the digital collections. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the program. And again, if you have any questions, please ask me either at the end or just email me because I'm kind of all over the place today. Let me share a different screen. No, I can figure this out. This is what our Past Perfect front end looks like. So it's just, has how to make appointments, searching tips. You can do a general keyword search where you just type in anything. And what I like about our keyword search is that it searches pretty much everything that's in the records, either titles or like search subjects that we assign to objects. We have a whole bunch of terms, which we're in the process of cleaning this up because the terms listings are very long. There's an advanced search where you can get real granular with it. I'm trying to think. So this is what like the public facing online catalog looks like. There is a back end, which I've only just recently gotten access to, so I'm not super familiar with it, but it is customizable. Like we put in our own like header image. You can change how the buttons show up. There's a lot of customization that is available for how it appears to the public. In terms of pricing, I'm not super familiar with this, but it seems to me that Past Perfect is very like a la carte. Like you can pay for different utilities or, for instance, the number of users. I think right now we currently are at the 6 to 10 users. And this is just the one price you pay for the program. But then there is extra fees for the online hosting and then for support. So if you ever have a problem with it, you need to have this support, I guess, contract. So they will have, like kind of like IT support, I guess, but just specifically for the program. So I would say, I'm trying to think, we probably pay roughly a little over 700 a year, both for the support contract and then the online hosting, which I think our online hosting is up to 10,000 records. And I think we're only at like 7,000. So we're not quite close yet to where we have to pay for the additional records. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would be helpful. I will say one negative that I've always not liked about Past Perfect is that when you push the update to Past Perfect Online, it actually takes like 3 or 4 hours because it has to index all of the records, all of the images, and then that time just gets longer. The more records we add, the more images we add. So I will say that is one downside that I wish was better, because then once I'm running the update for the online, I can't use Past Perfect for anything else until the update is complete. But yeah, there's all sorts of other like organization functions. Like there's this research section, which is there's like catalog lists and all this other fun stuff. So I could really probably spend like a couple hours talking about the program in depth. It's kind of hard to talk about it in just 10 minutes. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Erin. All right, so next in our chain of showcases, Lynn Dorwaldt from the Wagner, talking about PA photos and docs.
All right, there we go. So I don't have very many slides to show you. I will preface this entire presentation by saying that PA Photos and Docs is currently on a no longer supported version of Islandora. They are switching to Content DM in the new year. So I'm not going to really focus on the technical details of the site because I don't know exactly what's going to change and what's going to stay the same. And I don't have any live links to show you because everything is very, very slow right now because of that. So I'm going to talk about what it is and what I think the best benefits of PA Photos and Docs is. So first of all, it's a statewide digital collection repository for unique and special collections in Pennsylvania. It's offered through Pennsylvania's Power Library. That's part of the Office of the Commonwealth Libraries, but it's hosted and administered by HSLC in Philadelphia. So they were started to provide a digital platform for small and medium-sized libraries that don't have the resources to host their own digital collections, but they also want larger institutions to contribute collections that will contribute to the historical record of Pennsylvania. So their focus is really like trying to build up a great digital resource of Pennsylvania history and resources. So any Pennsylvania library can participate. The only cost you pay is support to HSLC. HSLC, yeah. And for special collections libraries, it's a flat yearly fee of $325. It doesn't matter what size your library is or that. But you have to be located in Pennsylvania, the library itself. And everything that you put up must be free of access restrictions based on copyright privacy concerns or other conditions that would restrict access to the public. So they really are about building up Pennsylvania history and making sure it's free and accessible to all, which is also great. You have to include a copyright statement in the metadata for your items. And the current system has a drop-down menu that makes it really easy to choose which one you want with language already in it, but you also have the ability to add language to that for whatever your needs are. And I assume this is going to carry over with Content DM. I don't know why it wouldn't. What I think some of the best benefits of PA Photos and Docs is really their support. The small team for PA Photos and Docs at HSLC is amazing. They are super responsive and always ready to help in any way. They really do try and make the whole system easy and accessible for any level of librarian, archivist, or museum or historical society worker to use. And there's amazing documentation. They have a metadata guide that's in a spreadsheet that you can adapt and use to upload all your metadata to the system in. They use mods, metadata. They currently have an Islandora reference guide that details everything you could ever possibly want to know about using Islandora, and includes detailed step-by-step procedures for all types of records and formats, which is really a great benefit for people that aren't using the system all the time. And as I said before, if you still have questions on top of all of that, they are there to help you to answer those questions. There's also this added benefit of participating in they participate in the Scan PA initiative. So if you're a PA Photos or Power Library user, PA Photos and Documents, you have the ability to loan any type of scanning equipment that they have. That includes flatbed and overhead scanners, negative slide and microfilm scanners, external hard drives, video capture equipment, and audio digitization equipment. And that's all for free. And then I'm going to show you, I took a couple screenshots of pages of it since it would take too long to try and show you live. This is the main search screen. It's very basic, but there is an advanced search feature. You can also search within different subject areas, time periods, or institutions. And there's a big variety of institutions in PA Photos and Docs right now. Public libraries and school libraries are a big part of it, but more and more special collections and colleges are adding to it. There's a fair number of PACSCL libraries already involved in it. And then this is all hosted on PA Photos and Docs, so this is not on the Wagner's website, just a link to this Wagner page on PA Photos and Docs that shows you all the collections that you have in there. And then the main collection page, you have a little summary about what the collection is, and then it shows all your collections. I didn't even get the title. This is a slides used to illustrate engineering lecture. And then this is the way that it presents. And I don't have a screenshot of a full record because it didn't really work. And that's it. I should also say, let me stop sharing, that the records also appear in Google searches. So if you search for the title of one of the slides in the Wagner's collection in Google, it would, the PA Photos and Doc record would pop up. So that's also really nice. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next speaker is Janet from Horticultural Society, talking about JSTOR, which I did not realize could be a digital repository until shockingly late in my career.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you see this PowerPoint? Okay, great. I'm going to start the slideshow. Okay. What you're looking at now, I hope, is the landing page of PHS on JSTOR. And what the JSTOR Digital Stewardship Services is, it started off about 5 years ago. It was during the pandemic. They started with a project called Open Community Collections. And institutions were invited to upload collections into this product that JSTOR was developing. It's now called Digital Stewardship Services, but each institution gets their own landing page. And what I'm going to show you is both front end and back end of this service. So what you're seeing now is one record of our flower show collection. And you've got 1936 Philadelphia Flower Show R. Tate McKenzie sculpture. There's the image. You can cite it. You can download it. And I'm going to just shrink the talking so I can see the screen. And you can also save it into a workspace. Another function that you can do, and this is the user who is looking at it from the user end. You can compare images across collections in JSTOR and compare them with other images executed by McKenzie. And you can compare up to 4 images at a time. You can also take advantage of JSTOR's vast repository of scholarly information. And you can come up with, for example, this is an article about McKenzie's sculpture that's right in JSTOR. I mentioned that you can sign in and get a workspace. And that's really handy if you're looking for images. For example, for a PowerPoint, you can put them into folders. And when you're ready to export them, you can export them as a PowerPoint or as a PDF or a zip file. And this is a PowerPoint of images exported. Okay, this is the back end. And just as Lynn was saying, PAPD is going through a migration. There is a migration of sorts happening with the JSTOR material. And right now, we're using Forum that will change a bit over time, but we have been assured that the changes aren't going to be great and confusing. So you would log in as a cataloger and administrator, and this is our page. And you can see that we have projects on the page. You can pull down this project indicator to go directly to a project. There's a dashboard right up here that shows the number of items in all of our collections, the number of items published at JSTOR, and then total item requests of our material, of all the material that we have on JSTOR. And those requests equal combined views and downloads across the collections. There is another dashboard page that is much more granular. You can just search over time or in different months and years, and for different collections. This is a work form showing an item that is in the process of being worked on. This is an article that appeared in one of our publications, and it would be a matter of filling out the form. We're using Dublin Core.
Yes.
And so this is
Testing.
the actual item, 3-page article. And one of the things that's nice about JSTOR is that the data is shared with OCLC. So this is a record that's on WorldCat of the article that I just showed you. You can also do Google searches and find the information that way. This digital asset management system also handles audio and video files. And what you're seeing now is a file that is being worked on of an audio file, and it will generate an auto transcript. So what is here is an auto transcript, but it still requires editing. In this example, the narrator talked about, quote, tilling the garden, end quote, but the auto generator picked it up as killing the garden and confused the integer 10 for tend. And so once the transcript is generated, it can be downloaded and edited and then updated again. And finally, this is what the audio record would look like to the public on the public interface with the transcript right there and with related images and media to this transcript. So that's really, I'm trying to cover the basic functionality, both for the user and for the cataloger. And I do want to say big thanks to Penny Baker, who is our archivist and is actually the brains behind putting all of this together and getting the material into JSTOR. So in terms of advantages, it's the functionality is easy to use. You're within the JSTOR universe, so you can draw on material from JSTOR to if somebody's doing the research, they're right there. They can also research the text files that are in JSTOR. The discoverability is very good. The support material is good. I personally haven't had occasion to contact a support person, so I can't tell you what that is like. But those, I would say, are the advantages. You should know that you would need to contact JSTOR and together make an assessment of where you would want to be in terms of what level you'd want to use this product. There's a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3. And each tier has, you start off with functionality in tier 1, and then it is added in tier 2 and tier 3. So it's a choice, and of course, depending on what you're using is what you're paying for. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Janet. Dot Porter Kislak, you are next, talking about using the Internet Archive.
All right. Thank you. All right. You should all continue to share. So you should all see my screen. All right, great. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use the Internet Archive for digital asset management, and how other people can as well. So at the University of Pennsylvania, we actually have several digital asset management systems and repositories. And so the Internet Archive is not our main repository. It is one of a few that we use, but it's one that I particularly like. So I'll start by sort of talking about like how it works as a system, and then at the end I'll say like why I like it and what some of the issues are with it. So here is the University of Pennsylvania Libraries on the Internet Archive. You can see that although it is like, obviously it's part of this much larger website, we do get our own, we get our logo here, so we can say, you know, that this is Penn. And one of the things that the Internet Archive allows you to do is to create sort of sub collections. So within the Penn libraries, we have a collection of OPEN, which is one of the repositories that we host, which contains a lot of material from Penn, but also material from other institutions as well. And the same with the Bibliotheca Philadelphiensis subcollection. So these are materials that were digitized as part of this project, which again includes materials, actually this 465 objects or items are, none of them are actually physical items that belong to Penn. So it's a little bit mixed up. It was part of this grant funded project. But then the Penn Graduate Program in Historical Preservation has 300 items, Pennsylvania Germans, like much smaller groups. But this is great because you come to Penn and then you can immediately see, oh, here are the different types of materials, the manuscripts of the Muslim world, which was part of another grant-funded project. And then when you get further down, you can see, so that starts out with sub-collections, and then we start getting individual items. And we'll look at more closely at what those individual items look like in a minute. You can also see over here on the left some sort of basic information about what it is we're looking at in this particular collection. There are just over 5,000 items in the entire Penn Libraries collections. There are both texts and collections, which I already mentioned. There are, and we'll see more of this again as we go down. So there's a lot of options for browsing through and finding things that have particular, that are on particular themes or on particular years. So here, now we're in the open collection. So we've gone into the sub collection. It's a smaller collection. This has 2,000 results. And again, we have the same media type here. Manuscripts of the Muslim World is a sub-collection of OPEN, in addition to being a sub-collection of the larger University of Pennsylvania collection. And then we have the individual items. And in the individual item list, you get a very minimal amount of metadata. We get a title, an author if there is one, a thumbnail. And this is kind of nice. We can see immediately how many people have looked at these. Not a huge number, but some, which is actually one of the advantages of being in the Internet Archive, is that you're in this much larger context. So people who are just searching around, if somebody searches for a Quran, they're going to find our Quran in addition to whatever else the Internet Archive has about Qurans. So it's a nice way to reach an audience that wouldn't necessarily come to the Penn Library's website looking for our stuff. The Internet Archive, because it's a little social media-like, you can have favorites. So somebody had a favorite here. That's also nice to see. And here, you can actually make comments on the records. People can come and make comments on the records. This happens to us very rarely, so you can see this is all zeros, but occasionally it does happen. And that can be potentially helpful if it's someone who knows a lot about a thing. They can tell us more. Usually that's not what they're saying, but we do what we can. So this is just another. Now we're in manuscripts of the Muslim world, and again we have the number here and the dates. I have a screenshot a little bit that has more about this, but this is really neat because it shows you. Maybe, I don't know, for manuscript collections, like older collections, it's really interesting to see the span of, we go anywhere from the year 1000, I think 2043, I think that's a mistake. Like we should look and see what's going on because it clearly wasn't 2043. Okay, and then here's bibliophily. This makes a little more sense, 900 to 1868. And I think now I'm going to, yes. So, you can do browsing, which is really nice in the Internet Archive because there is a certain amount of metadata. We have keywords that come in, subject headings, so books of hours. So here I've just said, I just want to see the books of hours that are in bibliophily, and I can immediately see, there's a number higher up. I've scrolled down, so we can't see how many there are, but we can see the various years. So if I wanted to only see the ones dated to 1450, I could do that. And now I have selected all of the Italian 15th century manuscripts by checking all of these. There are 33 of them, and I don't know, I don't know why there's this disagreement between the years, but whatever. So that's sort of the search and browse that's available. And you can also, here's a closer view. So if you scroll through, or if you rather highlight these lines in this year, you can see how many items there are in any individual year, which is, again, for a lot of things, maybe this isn't going to be interesting, but for like this collection in particular, it's really nice to see, okay, we have this many manuscripts in the 15th century versus other years. So back to bibliophily, I think this is our books of hours. We have 21 results. So we're going to look at one. This isn't a book of hours. This is an astronomical anthology. I wanted to show this one because this is a manuscript. This is in Hebrew. And so one of the nice things about Internet Archive is that it does, in addition to doing like things like Latin and English that read left to right, you can also host manuscripts or any materials that read right to left, like Hebrew or Arabic. So you get a sort of basic page turning interface. And so now I've come through the middle, we get this nice facing pages. And then there's a gallery view, which is another nice way to look at manuscripts. It also offers, because when you upload materials to the Internet Archive, it automatically does OCR on them, which doesn't work really well for most manuscripts at all. But it has this option to read the book aloud over here. So if you have more modern material that OCR can do a nice job on, this is a really nice accessibility potential. It doesn't really work for this manuscript because there's not a lot of writing anyway, because it's mostly charts, but it still tries, which is kind of interesting. And then the metadata, we'll look a little bit more at this, but here is what the metadata section looks like. It's not very robust, but we do get a publication date and the IP usage permission, topics, collection, again, like multiple collections, and then a nice section for a summary, which then we use to point back to our catalog. So it's a way to get this Internet Archive audience potentially to come back to our catalog. One of the things I really like about the Internet Archive is that once you upload the items, it sort of takes the images or whatever you upload and creates multiple download options. So a PDF. So if someone just wants to download the PDF and have that, there's also full text, an EPUB, which you have to generate, and a lot of other ones, which is really nice. So that's the front end. And I just really quickly wanted to show you the back end. So when you upload an individual item, you drag and drop the files. So here are all the files for all the pages of this manuscript. And then here's the description that goes back to our catalog record. The subject tags, which I just took from our catalog record and put in there. The license, and then, so there's not a whole lot of metadata that you can put in here, although you can add additional metadata if you want to. I'm not going to do that. And in addition to uploading individual ones, if you have like hundreds of things that you want to upload, they do offer a spreadsheet option. So it's the same metadata fields that we saw in the upload, along with you can put in your own identifier, file names, and I'll show you in just a second how this actually looks. So this is the example upload file that the Internet Archive gives you. And then you can identify all of these things in the collection that you want. So this is for the Bibliotheca Philadelphiensis project, we uploaded them all together. So because the spreadsheet wants a file, I generated PDF files of all of the manuscripts, just the page images. And then this is the spreadsheet that we, again, generated from all of the metadata that we had together. So you can see, here's the manuscript identifier, the PDF file, it's just the same file name. And then, the description and all of the subject headings and all of the information that we need, the metadata. And then that got uploaded all together, and it took a while. And this is what we ended up with. And I think that is the end. So thank you.
Okay, that was great. Thank you, Dot. Okay, last speaker is Eddie Rubiez, also from Science History Institute, who's going to talk about open source software.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for your patience. I'm not the most seasoned Zoom presenter, but I'm going to do my best. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yes, my name is Eddie Rubiez. I am one of two software developers at the Science History Institute. Definitely come see us. We are a nonprofit in Old City, Philadelphia, with the mission of telling the stories behind the science. And that means we collect and preserve and interpret and share the history of science. That can mean a lot of different things. In my case, it means I work primarily on our digital collections website. I'm not going to be demoing that website today, but the second line on the page on the slide is where you can see it, and I certainly encourage you to browse through it as I talk. So I said, yeah, of the four things I mentioned, I feel like the fourth one, the sharing part, is what we do best with this site. It's really a great way to get primary sources out into the world. So I'm going to be focusing on the history of the site. This is meant to be, I guess, an object lesson in the pros and cons of deciding to go all in to customize a digital asset management system that's based on open source components, but that we really take ownership of. So I guess I'll start about 10 years ago. I feel like the project started out with a roughly 2-year startup phase. The staffing was one developer, one metadata librarian, a system administrator, the wonderful Dan Stanford, who is in the room right now. Shout out. Um, a second developer started in 2017, and then I later came on board in 2018, I think, replacing the first one. So a small cast of characters. And we started out with a customized version of an open source project that's now called Hyrax, but was then called Sophia. I'm not going to draw a diagram of all the different components, but I will say that they are all open source. And things went pretty well at the beginning. By the time 2020 rolled around, we felt like we were starting to hit a plateau. Maintenance was a pain. We were spending a lot of time just fixing problems, and not enough time adding new features. A lot of those problems did center around Fedora Commons. If you're familiar with Islandora, Fedora was the digital asset management system that was the core of Islandora, hence the name. And we found that really frustrating. Um, so in 2019, we decided to take a risk, and we tasked my colleague Jonathan Rochkind to rewrite the core of the digital collections, to simplify it and customize it to our specific use case. So we got rid of Fedora Commons and we replaced it with a toolkit that Jonathan wrote and that centers on just a standard issue relational database. So um, it was, I feel like it was simpler, faster, and better after we were done. The process took about a year. While Jonathan was writing the new software, I was writing code that migrated all the data out of the old system and into the new system, which was a project in its own right. Yeah, so the whole thing took about a year, during which we weren't able to add a lot of new features. So it was a big risk. I will say as a side note that since that time, since 2019, Sophia, the project that we moved away from, did take steps to move away from Fedora Commons. So that actually does provide some validation for that decision. Um, so we're glad we did it. Of course, hindsight is 2020, but I feel like we've settled into a pattern where I guess the software maintenance plus adding new features is going well. We feel like we're in much better control over the whole system, and it takes roughly the equivalent of 1.5 FTE, so 1.5 full weeks of work per week, and we split it between myself and my colleague. At the bottom of this page, I link to the GitHub page, which lists all of the problems that we're currently working on. So that gives you a pretty good idea of all the stuff that we're wrestling with at the time. It's constantly changing, but it is a lot of work. And I guess I'm the last speaker, right? So all right, so I figured I wanted to end with some thoughts on this trade-off that we've been touching on. I think it's been a theme throughout the different speakers. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but I do want to say, don't confuse the software with the program. When you talk to decision makers, make sure they understand just because you have a shelf with books on it doesn't mean you have a functioning library. And likewise, just because you have working software with digital assets in it doesn't mean that you have a sustainable digital records program. I feel like Jonathan and I realize that a lot of resources go into the project, and we do our best to provide a level of service that's consistent with that. But it's a public face of our institution. Maybe I'm flattering myself, but in a way, it's just as important to our public face as the reading room or the museum hall. And I see it as also an organism that needs a lot of care and feeding to thrive. It's a program, in other words. And with all that said, I just want to end by saying that I'm grateful that PACSCL can provide a place for us all to pool resources so that we can together preserve the legacy of Philadelphia together. I think that's it. Thank you again, Sarah.
Okay, great. Thank you, all of our speakers. I think, so we've got about